Remember the times I'm feeling like Michael. We taking a stand, creating a plan, and beating the cycle. We got a whole lot of work we gotta do. Give me the raw, give me the real, just give me the truth. We start a conversation, then let the world debate it. Breath of fresh air coming through just like ventilation. And no boy, let me tell you about the squad. A dream team, so you know they coming hard. Now first up, let me tell you about Jay. You know he wise, man, that boy got knowledge for days. Check out his mind. Then we got Sean coming through like Thanos, keep him in line. He's a quiet storm, but don't get it twisted, you see the grind. And next up, we gotta talk about Nate. You know she slay. She got the brains and the beauty plus strength to keep him straight. And last but not least, we got Nostradamus. He's the voice of the people, so he'll keep it poppin'. My squad gon' keep it 100, and that's all facts. They're here to spark the conversation. Now you debate that.
Welcome to another episode of Debate That, where we discuss pop culture, social issues, relationships, and much, much more. My name is Jay.
And I'm Nay.
I'm Sean.
And today we have a special guest, my big cuz. I've known her forever. Obviously, she's my cousin. And I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sonia May.
And she will be talking about the topic that we have today because she has a lot of insight. So, Nostradamus, what we got for today?
Today's question is, does your environment determine your outcome?
So who's going to kick it off?
You. Well, let's let the guest go first. You know,
I think so. What is something?
Not many make it out of the hood, but for myself, I was raised in the PJs, which is the projects, and I just so happened to be probably out of the 4% to make it out and to be successful with it. But to answer that question, not many make it out because they don't know anything other than the environment that they grew up in. And what I mean by that is it's a generational thing. You have grandmothers, mothers, and now daughters all living in the same projects. So they don't know anything other than that unless you step outside the box and start to be around different people. Once you start that working environment, some people can gravitate to being around different people and it'll grow on them, like me per se. And I realized that I was really living in a box. And that's the way it's designed. Because you got your convenience store in the front, you got your community center where your kids go, and then you have the school that's within the 2-mile radius. So with that being said, sometimes it is difficult to come outside the environment that you are so comfortable with being in, so to speak.
So what you're saying is you think, yes, your environment does dictate your outcome majority of the time.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're a part of the 4% that was able to make it out of your environment. So there's another 96% who ends up basically staying in the same situation that they were kind of either grew up in or, you know, the situation they know.
Yes.
Okay. What about y'all? How y'all feel?
I got a question, right? So what do y'all think about the people who say, you know, it's easy enough just to pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Like, is it really that easy?
How you gonna ask a question when we ain't like Sean and Nay and you ain't even give your opinion on what you think? How you already asking questions, bruh?
Because it's gonna go to everything. Like it all goes together.
Wait.
It all goes together. Like as we start to talk about that, it's gonna tie into everything. But okay, I'll wait for that question. I'll wait for that question.
You ain't even wrong on that one,
bro. Hold on. Am I ever wrong? Let's
boy,
get that.
Yes.
Hey, he's unhappy right now.
You
are wrong.
99% of the time.
99. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. So, Nay, Sean, Jay, what do you guys think? Let's hear what y'all have to say first.
I would have to agree with her. You know what I mean? I heard something very profound the other day, where this one thing I was listening to, I was watching, and the dude was like, based upon like what she said, like you say, you got generations that's growing up in that same cycle. You know what I mean? But if you look at it, if you do make it, and let's say as a black person in a hood, right? Once you make it, you know what I mean? They was talking about like even when it comes down to the money flows, it should be flowing downward, right? But what happens? You got to go backwards, you know what I mean, to try to pull other people out of it, you know what I mean, just so they're not going through them same cycles. And the environment can definitely shape who you are, how you move, you know what I mean, what your education level can be and what it should be, or basically in what you want in life, you know what I mean? I agree with her 1,000%.
Nay.
So it's not that I disagree with what Sonya's saying. I agree that it is difficult to not be that product of the environment. But I also believe that as an individual, there are certain choices that you can make. You might not have the knowledge. You might not have the people to back you up, but there are certain choices that you can make to make those strives to not being that product of the environment.
True.
So
my answer kind of teeter-totters, because like I said, like what she was saying, I completely agree with that. And it's just this generational curses of and if you don't know no better, how you know, like, but there's also the other side to it. You know what I mean?
I agree. And Jay, before you go real quick, I agree 1,000%, honestly, with partially both of y'all when it comes down to what you just said. But that's when it takes the people who's in that village, and a lot of the stories you hear of the people who were able to kind of get out of that rat race and get out of that mindset is when they have them OGs who like, hey, we're gonna keep you out of trouble. You know what I mean? You good on the basketball court, or you good in school, this, that, whatever. We want you to be different. So it helps when you got that type of surrounding, and you got those who are able to look out for you. Because if you see easy money, and this is all you know, it's easy. It's so easy to just fall into that trap. You know what I mean? But the ones who you do hear make it out, you hear those stories. You hear those stories of the people, you know what I mean, who, like I said, support them and say, you know what? No, you know what I mean, you're doing hella good in sports right now. You're you top of the charts in basketball, football, whatever. We want to see you make it out of here. You representing us. So they're going to keep it.
So when does that happen? And okay, Sonya said she's from Mercy Drive in the Palms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who in the Palms talking about you gonna make it, so I'm gonna look out for you so you can make it? How many people is it like that?
It's not a lot.
In a situation where you're trying to survive.
It's not a lot.
So it's difficult.
Can I speak? Can I speak on it?
Go.
If I can't agree with what he's saying, matter of fact, I know for a fact to happen. If they see potential in you, like say you're an athlete or a rapper, like Glock 9, for instance, that's my friend's son. That's Jovita's son. He is the first in Orange County to actually make it mainstream and have baby come sit in his grandmother's living room on Conklin Cove to sign him. And of course, all the OGs then kind of stayed behind him because he's their meal ticket out. Like he said, if one person make it out, they expect for you to reach back and pull them too. And guess what happened? His best friend just got murdered, Baby J. That's my other friend's child. His other friend, Meat, killed somebody from Carver Shores. It's been a back and forth beat between Pootie and Glock 9. I know all these kids because I know their moms. In the hood from where I'm from.
I'm sorry to cut you off. You said Jovita. There's only one Jovita I know.
Jovita Anthony.
Okay, so is that her and Terrell Hope's son?
No, that's her oldest child.
Oh, okay.
Her oldest child is we call him Blackie, but that's Glock.
Okay, I know. Jay, you should know Jovita too.
I probably do.
She went to Evans. She was in our same class, and she was a cheerleader.
Oh, I think
with the deep dimples. Jovita.
She was thick. Sorry.
I mean, does that really break down like black women in Pine Hills? Like,
no, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off, though.
But if they see potential in you, that's the only way that the OGs will try to keep you out of trouble, and because they want you to come back and then pull them in with you. And by doing that, he has so many murders over his head right now. He's in and out of jail. If he would have left the environment, then he would have been considered a sellout. So now everybody wants to ride on Jovita's son's back. But that's the only way that happens in the hood. Like if they don't see you playing football or basketball, ain't nobody trying to help you get on the right track. If anything, from what I know from living in the Palms for 9 years, the OGs will take the younger jits and give them the dope because they know they're gonna get a 21-day slap on the wrist from juvenile. Unless they see that you have a talent, because they feel like you're gonna, pull them out once you make it. That's the only time I see that happen.
Man, that's only because they're going to try to give them some type of protection and say, look, we're going to try to keep you out of trouble. You know what I mean? I got your back. So that's what's kind of giving you that security blanket to say, you know what, we're going to force you into making it and getting out of this situation. But definitely going to have to reach back.
To me, is it the same thing? Because then you had the neighborhoods and the villages that you're talking about, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong now, was back in the day when they did see potential in you and it was like, no, you can't sell drugs because you about to go to the NBA, right? And it wasn't even a thing of you're going to reach back and get me. It was, no, you got a better life. So you got
a better life.
You got to do get out.
No, right? I agree with you. 1,000%.
And the situation that you and Sonya are talking about is, no, you don't do anything because you're going to help me later on.
Correct.
It was literally, even though I'm selling drugs, it was literally a selfless act to say, no, you can't do this because you got a future. But
it takes a real one to recognize somebody else's potential and want to keep that individual from not getting into trouble. But at the same time, there's still somebody that would be like, man, that's my dog. You got to ride with me. Like, you have to ride with me, period. So there's always going to be somebody to pull you back in.
Right.
Well, yeah, you got that mentality. That's what makes it hard. So when you're talking about the environment and I'm trying to escape the environment, it's hard to escape that when you have to come back to this environment.
But I'm going to go a little bit farther, and because Nate had mentioned something about the other side. And when she said the other side, to me, the other side is it could be somebody who's growing up in privileged environment. Parents are successful, but they're probably not going to turn out to be successful. In fact, they might end up being a drug dealer or something because maybe their parents wasn't around enough. So I would kind of say, no, your environment doesn't dictate or determine your outcome.
That's what I was speaking to.
No, and
we on the same page today, Nate.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that from that perspective, but then you got those, who, like you said, who are trying to, like you said, if you grew up in a home where you got mom, dad, they both got successful jobs, you kind of can get what you want, eat what you want. You know what I mean? You're not looking at how this is going to get paid or am I going to be able to get anything, a meal. You know what I mean? At that point, that's almost like being a spoiled brat. You know what I mean? That's just somebody who just being rebellious and basically just going against the grain versus the person who grew up in that environment and has to deal with it on a day-to-day basis and make real decisions on, if I try to go this way, like she said, am I a sellout? You know what I mean? To where you got people who don't look at their life and say, you know what, I got this going on, I can possibly have this going on. And they might just be like, you know what, the hell with it, I ain't got nothing to lose. So at this point, you want to flake out on me, then it is what it is. You know what I mean? To where they might do damage to hurting you because they ain't got nothing to pretty much live for. They don't have no value in whatever they're doing. So it gives you that decision that you got to make where you like, do I stay here? I really don't have nowhere else to go at this point, but I can see the future somewhat and see that, hey, I have an opportunity. I might have an opportunity down the line, but I'm still in this environment right now. So what do I do right now?
You have to.
Here's another perspective.
Have that mindset. You have to have a let's say exit plan.
Correct.
A strategic plan. If you don't have that strategic plan coming out of the projects, you're basically stuck. Because like I said, it's designed to keep you. Your rent is $0.00. I know I live there. You don't have no rent. So where you going? You raising three? Well, I have 3 sons. I'm raising 3 sons. I don't have to pay the rent, but it's a roof over my head. Now the environment at that safe is to the point where my boys know when we hear gunshots, we hit the floor. And that's sad when you got to train your children to hit the floor because you have 693 calls, police calls in an apartment complex and at least 10 murders a year. I'm not making this up. It's not far-fetched. If you look up the Palms, it went from the Palms to Windsor Cove. Now it has a third name. No matter how many times you change that name, it still has a bad stigmatism attached to that name.
Attached to it.
So what I mean by that is when what made me come out of the PJs is because I was raising 3 sons. I sat and watched the OGs pass off dope to these young men. And as I was telling my cousin, when you're in an apartment complex where there's no fathers there, because no men can live with you in the PJs. If they come and they see any clothes of a man, you're getting evicted. You can almost have a fight. You can do this. You can sell drugs. You don't get evicted. The moment they find out there's a man living in your house, you got to go. So then, therefore, you're taking the fathers, the dads, the uncles out of the household. So who's left to raise your boys? The dope dealers that's over here selling dope on Front Street. So now, I didn't want that to happen for my sons. So I moved out. I said, you know what? Yeah, I have cheap rent, or maybe I have no rent at all. Yeah, they give me a voucher towards my life. But is it worth what can happen to my boys in the future? So I decided to move out. Even in deciding to move out, I have 3 boys, raised them all the same, and I lost one of them to gun violence. Are the same boys from Mercy Drive. Shot in the back of the head, point blank range with a hawk tip. He's been dead 6 years now by the same Mercy Drive boys that I tried to take him away from. So that type of environment, the end result is always bad if you don't figure out a way and get your exit plan or a strategic plan on how to get out.
I agree.
Prison by 25.
What you were saying, eh?
Well,
Okay?
let me ask on your question. What would you say was your exit plan? Did you have a strategic plan, or did you just one day say, I'm not going to do this?
Yeah,
because you have your babies, I'm not going to do this.
It was, like I said, it was what I was seeing from the older guys, and I have 3 sons. And I didn't want that to happen to my boys because my husband was in prison. And he had a 10-year bid, 20 years, 10 in, 10 out. And here I am, the mother and the father. And only thing my boys have to look to is the OGs in the next building. My building, the building before my building. And I said, you know what? I can't raise my kids over here. I want them to see different faces, different people. I want them to be able to adapt to any environment other than being in the projects and around the same people that they grew up with. So that was my exit plan, my children. So
So that's okay. And that's what I was going to speak on from before. That's another perspective of why I'm saying, like, the question, I have two different sides, two different perspectives of answers, because to me, your answer was you're a mother, and that was a maternal response. That wasn't a strategic plan. You thought about your kids first, because that's what a mother is supposed to do. So you made the executive decision to say, I'm not going to allow my children to be a product of this. And you remove them. So in a way, that's why I'm saying, like, and it's not, and it's very true. It's hard decisions to make, because when you leave, you're not going to have your rent free. You're not going to have the opportunities of not having to worry about finding a job. You might have to now step away from your children more than you would have had to living in the projects, because you got to be working hard to pay this rent. So of course, in your mind, you're like, because of what the environment has taught you, I'm losing out on all of this that I can have, because I want to get away from what I'm used to. You know what I mean by that? So it's like, to me, when I look at the picture on a whole, it's at the point that you just say, this is what I'm gonna do. Make that executive decision to remove yourself. You can do it, and everybody else can make that decision too.
But it don't happen.
But that's the thing.
It's not easy. It's not easy. Of course, because of this systemic box that we have been put into.
True.
It's not easy.
So it's like this. What about this? You can say to somebody, oh, when you get out of prison, you can just go out there, get a job, start working, and do what you got to do. When people get out of prison, they want to do what's right. Most times they want to do it right to get their life back on track so they can do what they need to do. But here's the catch. You go to jail, you made a mistake, you went to jail, you did what you had to do, you paid you did your time, you come home. Nobody want to give you a job, right? People looking at you sideways because you just got out of prison, because you got this big gap on your resume. Like, you got to gain respect back from kids, maybe. Like, it's a lot of work that you have to do in order just to get back to zero, right? So then when you're not getting a job and you're trying to gain this respect back, and all this stuff happens, you feel like there's nothing I can do, but I know how to do this. I need money. I got to eat. I need clothes. I need a roof over my head. I'm not saying it's right, but in this same box that we're talking about, you can make a choice to leave. You can want to leave all day, but to Sonia's point, if you ain't got that exit strategy, or you can't figure out how I can leave, because if I got to pay $0 for where I live, but now I got to figure out how to come up with $600-700, like, how I'm gonna do that? And if you get a job, now you got to pay,
and you still got mouths to feed.
Right. So you can want to leave, but it's tough to leave. And being in that systematic system, when people get ready to leave, they make it extremely hard for you to go.
Agree.
So it's difficult, because we're on this side of the spectrum. When we go to the other side of the spectrum, which we haven't even touched yet, we're still on the opposite side. It's a new set of problems on the other side.
That's true.
I agree.
And
my thing is, when I hear you talk, Sonia, you wanted to leave. You know what I mean? And you figured out a course of action to do it. How many people in the PJs want to leave but play victim and say that they don't have another way? This is all I can do. This is all I know.
So I got a question to go with that question. Did you do it on your own, or did you have some outside help to help you recognize and or figure out what you needed to do?
A little bit of both. And it was my decision to want to get my boys to a better environment, but it was this guy that I worked for when I worked for Mr. Robert Finfrock at Finfrock Construction that believed in me and wanted to know how I was making it with 3 children as a single mother living in the projects. He had so many concerns for me. I wasn't just a number to him. When I would come in the building, he would speak to me and stuff like that. And we kind of like built with him being the owner of the company, we kind of had a friendship, and he kind of like motivated me to want more out of life. To go back to school. I didn't have a high school diploma. I was a teen mom. So I had some other outside influences. Maybe unlike the other girls that live in the project. Maybe they had nobody else to listen to. Because like I said, you got grandmothers, mothers, and daughters all living in the same apartment complex. Who gonna lead who when everybody's still in the same spot? So with my outside influences and me not wanting to see my boys become a product of their environment helped me come up with a strategic exit plan to get out of the projects. But everybody does have a valid point. You got some people that feel sorry for themselves and feel like they can't do better. I was on both sides of the spectrum. Okay, I'm in the PJs, but I can give my kids everything that they want. I may have to keep them in the house because there's game banging going on outside, but they got a PlayStation, they got this, they got that inside the house, and a roof over their head. But if I move out, now I got to work 10 times harder. I'm never home. And I may have to explain to them why they don't have anything under the Christmas tree for Christmas. Because I wanted a better life for them. Now I can't afford to get them the things that I used to. So I've been on both sides of the spectrum. But thankful to God, my kids weren't ungrateful. And they were okay with it once they understood, okay, I had to explain. Mama's doing this for the betterment of us. Me, you guys, and me. So it kind of was on both sides. The influence of the guy that I was working for and me wanting a better life for my children. And I knew living in the projects, I knew what the end result would be. And I have a dead son now.
Woo!
So can I give you a completely different perspective, which I've been kind of sitting here trying to figure out ways to verbalize what I want to say.
Go with it. Go with it.
Here's another perspective I'm going to throw at y'all. So for me, everybody knows that I am Jamaican culturally. I was born in the States, but my roots are Jamaican. Parents are born in Jamaica. They came over here from Jamaica. So here's a different perspective, right? With my parents being from Jamaica, they came over here with little to nothing for better opportunity in America, right? Mm-hmm. You come from Jamaica. You're not gonna come here and live in the suburbs. You're gonna come here and live in the hood. You're gonna live in the hood and build yourself up. When my parents and their parents and so on and so forth came here and had to move to the hood when they got to America, which was completely different from when they were hearing, foreign was about, America was about. All they could think about was working hard and doing what they had to do so that they didn't have to be controlled by the white man. They don't have to be held under any kind of circumstances. The only thing they thought about was making sure that the family back home either had the opportunity to come up here to America or they were being taken care of back home. Because the projects in the States compared to the projects and the slums and the gully in Jamaica, there's no comparison. Y'all have apartments. They have huts, So when you have Caribbean parentage that comes to the States with a purpose to work hard so that you can take care of the generations to come. So me now, my parents were born in Jamaica. So I'm first generation American. My parents instilled in me that no matter what your environment is, you will not become a product of that. I don't care if you're in the ghettoest of ghetto schools, if you're in the hoodest of hoodest slums, you're in the projects, it doesn't matter. There is one purpose for you on this earth, and it's to succeed, because that's the reason why God created you, period. So I grew up hearing, no matter what hood school I was in, no matter what projects I was living in, no matter what, nothing. It doesn't matter how much money or how little. It didn't matter. You're here for a purpose. You don't make, my parents used to always tell me before going to school, you don't let the school make you. You make the school. They used to always say that to me. And these are seeds that were planted in me, and now I'm planting it in my daughter. I don't care where you at or what you're doing. You're here for a purpose, and that's the purpose that you need to succeed in. So, like, I say all that to say, for me, being a Caribbean girl, like, I believe that because of the cultural background and certain things that were instilled in me, my perception is different. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying, Sonia, for your experience, it's not the truth. Like I said, I agree. They created this box for us to stay in. But me coming from where my parents came from and their hoods that they came from, the thought process is different, because it's a thought process of, we're not here to stay. Nobody is going to lock us down. We're going to create what we have to create so that we'll have better. And when we have better, we can take care of everybody else who has better. And everybody has that thought process. We're not here to stay, and we're doing what we can do so we can have better for generations after generations and after generations. So, again, just pulling another perspective from somewhere else.
No, I agree.
I'm ready to piggyback on that.
And me too.
Me too. I'm
just ready to piggyback on it, because I'm gonna tell you.
Can I ask a question that will probably go to what y'all saying? Got him. I'm going first. Look, in your situation, Nay, if you have a contract, from where I'm standing, you have a contrast. You're in Jamaica. This is horrible. But I heard if you go to the States, it's easy over there. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna take the chance to go to the States.
There's more opportunity. There's more opportunity to be better. Not easy.
Right. But for
those who come from,
did you have to say? Because again, they're not putting you in a box, Nay. They're putting Sonya in the box. So what contract did you have, Sonya, to say, man, you know what?
That's the perspective I'm bringing.
What's the difference?
And before, Sonya, you answer that real quick, I just got to say, Nay, I see your perspective on that. You know what I mean? My wife is from Africa. So when they come over here and they say, oh, shoot, you know what I mean? No, of course, they wasn't in the huts and stuff like that and what you see on the Discovery Channel. You know what I mean? They had nice houses, had made stuff like that, whatever. But there's a big but. Those who come from outside of the U.S. and you kind of, like you said, the hustle is different because you're coming from a different perspective versus the person who grew up here, and this is all we know. So my mentality, like for an example, I was just telling you before we started really recording about the dude who moved over to South Africa. So my mindset, and like me and Jay talked about it as I be cutting his hair and stuff, when I was showing him the videos of the dude who be training and stuff, if you give me an opportunity to get over there, my mindset and hustle is on a whole different ball game. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I'm not trapped where I'm from. You know what I mean? Where I grew up at, where I was bred. You know what I mean? I'm not trapped here. I can see opportunity over there where I can blow the cap off that joint. You know what I mean? And really succeed and build generational wealth and stuff like that. So it's the same thing, like someone looking into America to say, oh, I see opportunity. But the people who are in America, they looking outside and saying, I see opportunity. You know what I mean? Because it's two different spectrums. So that drive is going to be different on each side. To where you like, shoot. You know what I mean? So it's you definitely can control the environment to an extent. But I look at it from that perspective because, like I said, I can feel it in my bones even when I look at these videos. And I'm like, they're like, oh, shoot. You can get a damn house that you might pay over here, $700,000, and you can get it over there for $150,000. And like I said, you're not waking up as, the black guy in a white community, you are the majority. So the majority of the people that you see that look like you, your same color, is waking up in them same houses. You know what I mean? To where the mindset is totally different. You know what I mean?
Get him, Queen May. Get him.
Okay. Got me in. I'm in.
You ain't tag.
She has a valid point. Like I said, I can only speak on where I'm from, where I came from. And it doesn't matter where you're from. Once you come to America and you were born and raised here, I know so many Haitians that commit more crimes than Americans. If you're raised here in the United States, you adapt to your environment. So I got so many friends that Haitians and Jamaicans that lived in the Palms that turned out just as worse as the Americans. It's the environment that you're accustomed to, the people that you're around, and their families have strong Haitian beliefs, strong Jamaican beliefs. We're supposed to get here, get an education, get a degree, get a trade, get you a family, get a wife, and then, be successful. There's no generational wealth being taught in the household in the projects. That's just, it's unheard of. And if you do have a few Haitian families or Jamaican families, that's all I've seen in the projects. 9 times out of 10, they do have a strong family belief, but once their kids walk outside that door and they trapped in that box, they all act the same way. They start living a life of crime. They start selling dope. They start getting killed. They start killing people. But regardless to what their family beliefs are, they fall victim to the environment that they were raised in. I rarely know anybody. I can call on one person, and that's City Mark. Besides me, I'm like I told my cousin them. I'm a god in my hood. I made it out. But to the people that I left behind, I'm a sellout. Some believe in me, like dang, son, I'm so proud of you. You made it. You got a master's degree. You made it out. You're successful. But then others, oh, child, she thinks she's better than people. Oh, she ain't from Mercy no more. She a sellout. I can't please both people, but I damn sure motivated a whole lot. So I say all that to say this. It still goes back to being a product of your environment, and you have to want out. You have to have an exit plan and a strategic plan to want more for your future. If not, you're trapped in the box, and then you're going to be able to do.
Especially if you got kids, like you said. I mean, that's your gas right there for you to keep it moving, which is like you said, Nay, when it comes down to your parents, hey, this is the structure. This is what you're going to do. This is how we're going to move. You know what I mean?
This is what I'm going to do.
Exactly.
This is what
ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
There's no men in the projects.
Yeah.
So if your parents lived in the projects, they were lucky. There are no men allowed in the projects. If you think I'm lying, ask somebody else. There are no men allowed to stay with you. It's called single family housing. No male is allowed to live with you in the projects. So whenever you have a male friend, now you keep having all these babies, you ain't having them by yourself. But when they come and do that inspection, if they see a pair of men's shoes, you evicted. So you can keep getting pregnant, keep having babies, adding them to your program. But there's no man supposed to be in the household. So how are you supposed to run your household when the government wants you to push the father out and let the dope boys raise your son, have them selling dope, or end up dead?
And that's the only problem with that is that women got to be smarter. They'll be like, look, I ain't about to birth no babies from all these different dudes. You know what I mean? Until you get a plan to say, you know what, I need a better life. But like I said, at the end of the day, you got to be able to see better. You know what I mean? And you got to have that opportunity. You won't know better unless you see better. You know what I mean? And we be so confined. Hell, I mean, I'm from Connecticut. I don't know where I would be. And not to say that, I mean, my cousins and most of my family up there is, they good. They're doing well for themselves. But I can't wrap my head around to see where would I be if I end up staying. You know what I mean? I've been blessed with opportunities and different jobs and stuff like that. And I know Florida has, I mean, hell, it's already a bigger state just off the rip. But at the most part, the opportunities were different. The job opportunities that I was able to get, you know what I mean, to do different things. So I really can't wrap my head around to see where would I be, who would I be married to, where would I be living? Because when I go back and forth up there, some stuff look total same. You know what I mean? Like it don't change in the hood. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you see stuff that look grimy. You know what I mean? Where like, damn, and then you pull up over here and you're on a plane and you landing and you seeing palm trees. I grew up over there and I'm like, I could walk to the store and be eating whatever and throwing paper on the ground. Once I landed in Florida, I was scared. I'm not even lying. I was like, yo, but up there, that was the normal. You know what I mean? I could walk. Like I said, you eating whatever. Hey, you done with it, you throw it on the street. You know what I mean? You just keep it moving. But for the most part, I mean, I don't know where I would be. I don't know if you feel the same or look at it the same, Jay. If you were in, you know what I mean, Virginia somewhere, you just don't know.
So for me, I feel like if I would have, so I was born here in Florida, in Orlando. Myself, my cousin, my other cousins, we were around each other like every day when we were younger, when we were babies. So if I stayed here, I don't know where I would be. I don't know if I would be the Jason that you guys see before you now. When my dad came and when my stepfather came into the picture, he was in the military, so we left. We went to Maryland, and then we went to Virginia, and we moved to Massachusetts. But I was able to see. So we lived off of OBT on what 18th. I wasn't there when Grandma lived on 18th Street. Hassan, that was 24th Street. She lives somewhere right off of Paramore. She was always off of Paramore.
In some pretty bad areas, but you were already gone.
So when I left and I went to Maryland, it was rural. It was nothing. It was cornfields. When I went to Virginia, it was suburb. Like the neighborhoods that you were talking about earlier, Sean. That's our neighborhood. We would block off the entrance to the road and have block parties. That was our neighborhood. I got to see it all. And then we went to Springfield, and then I got to see a little bigger city, right? Then we came back to Florida. I say that because all of those experiences were allowed me to contrast, to be able to see what happened in Florida, to be able to see what happened in Maryland and then Virginia. But it also gave me opportunities. I was able to go outside of that box that my grandmother or that Sonya talks about. We were able to get outside of that box and see something different, right? When I came back, everything looked different to me, meaning because I was able to see all these different types of these different walks of life, I was able to see things completely different. I was able to look at this and look at that and see something completely different than what somebody else would see. So that contrast and those opportunities allowed me to be where I'm at today. If I didn't have that, I don't think I would be here.
So let me piggyback off that real quick, Jay. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Same thing. And I look at it the same way because, like I said, growing up here in Florida and in Connecticut, when I was in Connecticut, all I saw was a lot of myself, you know what I mean, in that environment. But when I came here, like if you look at the melting pot of different cultures and stuff like that, like I said, you're able to see it from both sides of the spectrum to where you're like, okay, well, you got this walk of life. And like you said, you can block off a street, this and that. And I didn't grow up in no Hollywood Hills over here in Florida. I mean, I'm right from Willow Bend. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it ain't considered the hood, but because of what I was able to see when I was up in Connecticut, when I'm looking at drive-bys, I got a cousin who got killed in a drive-by. He was only 13. You know what I mean? 4 houses down the street from his own house. Lost friends and everything. So at the end of the day, when you look at it, I'm like, shit, this ain't that bad. You know what I mean? To where that was a safe haven and peace being right there in Willow Bend, where most people be like, oh, you're in Pine Hills. I mean, hell, you're right up the street from Mercy Drive. So at the end of the day, I mean, for me personally, because I was able to see both sides of it, it made it easier for me because I felt like up there was so much faster and so much things going on to where down here it's like, okay, well, I'm laid back. You know what I mean? I can chill just because I had that opportunity to see something different. You know what I mean?
And it's kind of the same with me because I'm from Jersey. I'm from Patterson, and just like you, Shawnee, like it's a different type of hood.
It is.
It's a different type of hood than down here.
Jamaican, Puerto Rican. Honestly, I didn't know what Haitian was. I swear to God.
I didn't know what Haitian
God forgive me.
I moved to Florida.
Same here. All I knew is Jamaican and Puerto Rican. That's it.
I'm married to a Haitian, and I didn't know what Haitians were until I moved to Florida.
So, but the sad part is it messes with your mind when you really think about the knowledge of, like you said, I can honestly say I didn't know. You know what I mean? The other cultures, Guyanese, this and that, whatever. I'm talking about, like I said, you surrounded by your peoples are Jamaican and Puerto Rican. That's it.
Can I say something? Because I never really paid attention to the murder rate that we have here in Orlando until my son was murdered. Because people don't think that it happened. We have more murders than y'all can imagine, but they can't be televised because there's a contract with Walt Disney World in the city that they can't televise every murder that happens.
That's deep.
We have so many murders here in Orlando. This little bitty city.
Yeah, because all the crazy.
I agree.
Right from Florida. All the crazy people.
Yeah, but
you hit Charlemagne.
They don't televise because.
Hold on. First of all the crazy people in Florida come from outside of Florida. Let's get that straight now.
There you go, Floridian.
Go ahead, Sonia.
When I started to do these Stop the Violence, like I never paid attention to the murders until I lost my son. So when I lost my son, I started doing Stop the Violence walks. Do you know, in 2015, we had 101 murders. This black on black crime. There's no other kind of crime. This is black on black crime just here in Central Florida. It's not televised because things like that, they don't want to run our tourists away. So that stuff gets swept under the rug because people think we're Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. We're not. It's a lot of killing going on here. And if you end up in the wrong spot, you're going to be dead. Like I had a guy friend that I met when I was in Mexico in September. And I didn't know he was living here in Orlando. Well, he don't live in Orlando. He live in the outskirts. He live over there near Orangewood, over there by International. He stays over there.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Orangewood Boulevard.
That's nowhere near the hood. And then he was like, yeah, I met this girl, she stayed over there on Mercy Drive, and I wanted to get me some weed or whatever. And I said, where you went? He said, to the Palms. I said, don't you ever in your life step foot back over there. They know you're not from over there. You would end up dead.
Yeah, he could have went there.
Oh, what happened?
He could have went to Tangelo Park for that.
This and this. And I say, stop thinking that Orlando is Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, because it's not. Y'all, it's just not televised because they don't want to run our tourists away. We can't get a 48 hours because of that. Because if we did, y'all would actually know how many murders it is here in Central Florida. 101 in 2015. I mean, we have 2-3 a day starting at the beginning of the year.
Look, I don't disagree with you at all, especially with that. But I know, like, when my cousins them come out here to Florida from Connecticut, and they like, shh, and they get messages on their phone, like, damn, So once summer hit, when it's summertime shootout for real. You know what I mean? Up there in Connecticut, up north. You know what I mean? And it's like I said, you're talking about a small state. Florida is so much bigger. I mean, you could fit probably like 7 or 8 Connecticut's in Florida by itself. You know what I mean? So, and you're talking about the capital, Hartford. Hell, I was shocked when I was on Gangland. We was on Gangland. You know what I mean? If you look at the HBO special, Hartford, Connecticut on Gangland. You know what I mean? But regardless, even some of my coworkers who I work with who live in, like I said, they're from, Patterson, New Jersey and stuff like that. To where she like, shoot, you can't even roll up in the street and you got your phone in your hand and you on your car. You know what I mean, with your window down, because hey, it's gone. You know what I mean? They walking up on you and they just taking it. And like I said, I have no doubts. You know what I mean? I grew up, like I said, in Willow Bend, so I seen a lot of ish, and I'm pretty sure you probably know a lot of the same people I know. You know what I mean? Because like I said, once you mentioned, Jovita, like I said, I grew up. My house was around the corner where they used to say me and Terrell looked alike. You know what I mean? That was like my big.
Look alike.
Yeah, that was like my family. You know what I mean? Terrell. I don't know if you know my cousin. His name is Tylon. He's a barber. But and I had somebody else who was over there in the Palms area a lot, Lottel. You know what I mean? But overall, I mean, it's chaos. But like I said, if you looked at it from a different spectrum and how things move, it's going to give you a different look at it. You know what I mean? To where that's why, like me and Nate was saying, you know what I mean? It's almost like a laid back feeling, because regardless of what we know what's really going on, and you see it because you be tapped in. But when you see that cold-hearted world that you end up north, and like I said, they all kind of fall under that same umbrella. You know what I mean? So where it's just like, damn, you know what I mean? You just got to move the right way, no matter where you at. Don't matter where you from, where you at, you got to move the right way.
So I got a question, right? So how difficult is it to try? And I'm gonna throw this one at you, cuz how difficult is it? Dang, it done popped off. How difficult is it?
That's that bullet.
How difficult is it to try to be the voice of reason to your kids when you got to fight against, when they go outside, when you got to fight against the environment? How difficult is it to do that?
And before you answer that question, how old are your kids right now?
My oldest would have been 26, going on 27 this year. My second oldest is 23, and the last one is 19.
Okay.
So how difficult was it to try to be because you didn't have the man in the house? So how difficult was it you being the mom and the dad, trying to be that family unit and have that voice and still try to and try to battle the environment? Does that make sense?
Well, by the time I came out of the environment, by the time I moved out of the projects, Melchivius was just 12. So I kind of didn't lose him to the environment. He kept going back to the environment. He just kept going back to the projects, although I moved out. But it wasn't that difficult. Now, raising 3 boys, because I can't teach a boy how to be a man. I can only teach him my way of how to be a young man. So sometimes that would get kind of difficult, but not much for me, because I don't play. I just got this look on my face that say I don't play. So
we can tell.
When I speak, I mean business.
We can tell.
I never really had no problems out of them. I lost one, but my 23-year-old, he's an entrepreneur. He just bought a semi-truck. He's never been in trouble. He's a good kid. My 19-year-old, he's a very quiet kid. He don't get in trouble. He's trying to figure out a career path. He said college wasn't for him. I'm not going to force that upon him. But I didn't do so bad as a single mom.
You only could do what you could do.
My husband got out, but he didn't change his ways because all he knew was the streets. He had been selling dope since he was 12 years old. And he didn't change his life. He decided to rob a bank. He put the police on a high-speed chase and got himself ejected and killed himself. So I still ended up being a single mom. And then 13 months later, my son was murdered. So
God bless you.
For me on that aspect, it's just the trials and tribulations in the hand I was dealt. But I still played it to the best of my ability.
You sure did.
Yo, you can play spades with me any day because you about to get us some books.
Hey, ain't no folding.
With the stuff that you been through, huh?
Yeah.
No folding at all, for real.
So,
So
son, you had mentioned something that made me think about it. You had said, where you're from in your hood, you consider a god to certain people, but there's another section of people that, you know, sit there and say, "Oh, she thinks she's all that," or whatever the case is, right?
Yeah.
We call those people haters because they can't be happy for nobody, right? And in one sense, that's that, the old saying of crab in the bucket,
In the
crab in
barrel.
the barrel, right?
Right.
When instead of being like ants and all of y'all forming a ladder and letting one get out and then start pulling other people up, they want to pull people down. So what is something that you know makes people feel like they can't be happy for somebody and just got to keep pulling you back in? And how did you not fall victim to that whole crab in the barrel mentality?
Because see, it's like what we were talking about earlier. When one make it out, they always want you to reach back and grab for them. Now I don't mind. I told everybody what I did. Like, look, I want to get out of the hood. I better like my kids, and we would all talk about it. But I was the only one that actually was about that action. The rest of them wasn't. So once I made it out, I'm like, hey, look, I made it out. You can do X, Y, Z. Oh yeah, but I ain't gonna be able to afford my rent. And then they start making excuses. Like, so I can't help you if you're making excuses for yourself. Because if I can do it, you can do it. Oh no, because I know I ain't gonna be able to do this. So what do I do in a situation like that? I gotta let you go. Because see, you don't want any better. You're accustomed.
You don't want it bad enough.
To your environment and you're stuck here. I've outgrown my environment. That's the difference.
That is the difference. It's a big difference.
I just outgrew.
They don't want it bad enough.
Yeah, exactly. I outgrew where I came from, and I want to make it, but I can't do that if they don't want it. It all starts from you wanting to outgrow that environment. But don't ever forget where you came from because it made me who I am today.
That's what give you that balance.
So I got a question for you, Sonia. So, if people going to the gym, right? And and they want to lose the weight, legitimately want to lose the weight, right? They have every intent on going to the gym and losing the weight. So in your situation, you have people who want to leave, right? They genuinely want to leave, and it's something there stopping them. What was that one thing that was there stopping you before you figured out how to get out?
Fear of not being able to support my children without the government assistance. And what I mean by that, the government assistance is me having a place where I don't have to pay but $20 for rent. You know what I'm saying? I'm secure here. Now it may be violent, but then I know I'm not on the streets with my children. So it was things like that kept me there. But then I overcame that fear because I thought about what can happen to all my sons if I remain in this environment when I'm seeing people losing their sons, going to jail, So I had to figure out what was my pros and what was my cons and what would be better for my children. It all fall back to my kids. My kids is the reason I did everything. My kids are the reason why I've never been to jail. I might have got a lot of fights. I may have put a gun on somebody, but by the grace of God, I didn't go to jail. But and that's a whole other story. But by the grace of God, I didn't get into trouble. So I just knew that I needed to get out. But I don't know of any girls. Well, no, I don't really know of anybody that. I got girlfriends now that's been there 20 years. We moved there together. No, 23 years. I got a friend right now, 2 of them, that are still there. And their daughters had babies and they're living there. I'm not making this up. It's the truth.
Product of the environment.
When it comes down to it, I think, and we can go ahead and start wrapping it up and giving final thoughts. Nostradamus, you got more questions?
No, sir.
So let's get into the final thoughts, right? What do you guys think? Does your environment determine your outcome? at the end of the day? We can start with Sean. What you got?
I think your environment does not define your outcome. It just depends on who's in your corner and who you have supporting you, who's feeding you that positive reinforcement to let you know that that does not determine your environment. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you can definitely fall short to it very easily. You know what I mean? Because you see easy opportunities that looks like opportunities, but for the most part, you just got to surround yourself with the right people. You know what I mean? That put that battery in your back, and that's going to basically, kind of give you that vision if you don't already have the vision. But it'll help get them chains off your mind and let you know that, look, there's something else on the other side that you have the opportunity to get to. So it's just about, like I said, surrounding yourself with the right people so you're not a product of your environment. But you do have an opportunity to be out of it, but you also have that same opportunity to be stuck in it.
Miss Nay, what you got?
Circumstantial, man. Like, what with that particular question, I just think that there's so many different perspectives that you can pull from. So that's my final answer. There's too many different angles.
It is.
To give a one solid answer to the question.
Like I said, it can go either way, Nay. So you're right.
Amsterdam is what you got.
Yeah, I think it just kind of depends. I mean, when we talked a lot about being from the hood and falling victim to your environment, but on the other side, there's a lot of successful people who kids don't become successful and they're a part of that environment as well. Sometimes I feel like, you always want what you don't have, you know what I mean? And there's, majority of the people in the hood want to get out the hood, and the people who don't know the hood and ain't never been to the hood want to get into the hood for some reason.
Taste of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then, earlier on Nay had talked about her parents being from Jamaica and stuff. There's a different mentality when you're an immigrant, when you've come from a different place.
Absolutely.
And you know what it is to really have nothing, right? Correct. I think Damon John had a book he wrote called The Power of Broke. And that's basically using when you have nothing to become successful, and always having that hungry mentality, like, I ain't made it yet. I don't have anything. So I need to keep on hustling and grinding to become successful. But you gotta, depending on where you're from, you gotta understand that starts with me. Regardless of what I see, I need to want better. I got to do better. And I got to know that there's different options out there for me. So like Nate said, it's situational, you know what I mean? But I would say it's definitely not the case where it holds 100% true that your environment dictates or determines what your outcome is.
Agreed. Wow.
So
wow. Look at us.
I think when it comes down,
we have our moments.
Yeah, rarely. I think when it comes down to it, everybody has a valid point, and it comes to, for me, it comes to that contrast and opportunity. Like, I got to be able to see something different in order to want something different. It's kind of tough for me to miss TV if I never had it, right? Correct. So if I see something different, and I see a different environment, I'm like, yo, I want that because this ain't it. And when I'm able to see that contrast, now I have something that I can go after. It's no different than your parents coming here or any immigrant coming here. Like, America is the place to be because I don't want this. Right. But when you're here and you don't see something else that you can say, I want that, it makes it really difficult to try to move towards something because you don't know what you're moving toward. Right. So to me, it's contrast and the opportunity. And when somebody gives you the opportunity, like when Cuz was talking about the gentleman that she used to work for, and he was like, I see more in you, it makes you think, well, what the hell is in me that he sees that I don't see? Right. And so when he starts giving you the opportunity, you got to say, okay, I'm gonna take this opportunity, and you just see where it goes from there. And then you start moving in the direction that you need to go. So for me, contrast, opportunity. I don't think that your environment determines your outcome, but I think it plays a really, really big role in who you are and what you do. Closes, girl.
Can I say this? And now I'm thinking about what Nate said. When we go to these third world countries, like I had the opportunity to go to Cuba. And when I tell you, it made me appreciate, even living in the projects, it made me appreciate the United States of America so much more, because those people, they don't even have cable. They got 7 channels controlled by the government. You got 30 people at the bus stop. They're making $9 a month. And guess what? They're happy because they don't know anything else.
Don't know nothing else.
Opportunity over here where we are, but we don't take advantage of it. But over there where they are, they don't have absolutely nothing. And we over here with our phones, they didn't even have Wi-Fi. We over here with our phones, like, oh, we in Cuba and this and that. But as the day went on, I really started to appreciate where I was from. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a land of opportunity if you apply yourself. But if you're up in the butt, like they said, if you're living in one particular area and you haven't been outside that area, you don't know anything else. But get dumped over there in Cuba and see what I saw and how they live. And I think the Palms ain't got nothing on what I saw. And get dumped in an environment like that, it'll make you appreciate where you're from a whole lot more. So I think that it's all based on the individual. If you want out, you will get out. If not, you'll stay stagnant and you'll stay in that little box and you won't ever get out. But it's all up to the individual to want out.
Okay. Go ahead and close this out, Nay.
Thanks so much, guys, for joining us on another episode. So what do y'all think? As individuals, are you a product of your environment? Comment below. Give us your thoughts, your perspectives. Really think about that now. Don't just jot things down there. We love you guys. We thank you guys for your support. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Share to all your friends. Go home and debate that. Bye.
Yeah. Back on the grind, remember the times I'm feeling like Michael. Taking a stand, creating a plan, and beating the cycle. We got a whole lot of work we gotta do. Give me the raw, give me the real, just give me the truth. We start a conversation, then let the world debate it. Breath of fresh air coming through just like ventilation. And no boy, let me tell you about the squad. A dream team, so you know they coming hard. Now first up, let me tell you about Jay. You know he wise, man. That boy got knowledge for days. Check out his mind. Then we got Sean coming through like Thanos, keep him in line. He's a quiet storm, but don't get it twisted. You see the grind. And next up, we gotta talk about Nate. You know she slay. She got the brains and the beauty plus strength to keep you straight. And last but not least, we got Nostradamus. He's the voice of the people, so he'll keep it poppin'. My squad gon' keep it 100, and that's all facts. They're here to spark the conversation. Now you debate that.